Is it wrong for an able-bodied person to park in a disabled parking space? Or for a young person to line up in the elderly person's queue? That's essentially what a drug company has done with a possible COVID-19 cure. The company's name is Gilead, which is one of the top 10 drug companies in the USA, and the drug is Remdesivir. And they did it by getting Remdesivir classified as an orphan drug. Now, what's an orphan drug? Normally, when a drug company creates a new drug, they'll get it patented. A patent gives them a period of 20 years, during which time they have a monopoly over that drug. Nobody else can make it without infringing the patent. After the 20-year period finishes, anyone else can make and sell the drug in generic form, which is why on the shelves of the pharmacy, you can often see medicines in original and generic form right next to each other. The theory is that 20 years should be enough time for them to make money to pay for the original R&D investment, plus a reasonable profit for the investors, encouraging them to invest further in more R&D for more new drugs. But sometimes the market for a drug is so limited that it's not enough. For example, the market might be so small, so few people have a particular disease that there's not enough people who would want to pay to buy the drug. So in these cases, American drug companies can go to the Food and Drug Administration to get their drug approved as an orphan drug. And this gives them a lot of benefits: tax breaks, R&D grants, streamlined approvals, and this is important, I'll explain why later. And the FDA itself administers a special exclusive rights period of 7 years over the drug. And that's in addition to the patent protection. So that's what Gilead did in March of this year, 2020. They applied for orphan drug status and the FDA approved it. But then 2 days later, 2 days after getting approval, facing an immediate backlash from the public, they gave up the orphan drug status. Now, why should we care about this? Well, there are several reasons. Firstly, Gilead had already received 79 million American dollars in government funding to develop Remdesivir. Orphan drug status would have given them even more financial benefits, and that seems a bit like double dipping. Secondly, drug pricing is a big problem, especially in the USA. When you have exclusive rights, you can charge whatever you want because nobody else is allowed to sell the drug. So theoretically, you're limited by what the market is willing to pay for the drug. But during the COVID-19 crisis, there's going to be a lot of desperate people willing to pay almost any price if the drug is an effective cure. And even without a pandemic, pricing is really difficult to understand. Americans pay 2 to 6 times the cost of brand name medicines compared to the rest of the world. And for generics, it can be 10 times. We should also ask, why did the FDA approve it as an orphan drug? An orphan drug should only be granted if it's for rare diseases affecting less than 200,000 people, not for a global pandemic. This is not a good decision by the FDA, which has already been criticized recently for being slow to approve COVID-19 testing kits, and as a result, the US was slow to test people with the virus. Widespread testing is critical to control the spread. Now, I'd said earlier that one of the benefits a drug company gets from orphan status is streamlined approvals. When they gave up orphan drug status, Gilead put out a press release, and they hinted that the reason why they wanted orphan drug status was to bypass the long approval process. They said that orphan status gives a waiver of the requirement to provide a pediatric study prior to the submission of a new drug application, a process that can take up to 210 days to review. In other words, it wasn't for the financial benefits, it was to bypass bureaucracy. Are they telling the truth? Well, I'd certainly want to look at any way to bypass the bureaucracy that comes with FDA approval. But would they have exploited the financial benefits that come along with an orphan drug? That we'll never know. The good news is that this story has a happy ending. This week, Gilead announced that it was donating 1.5 million doses of Remdesivir. Now that's enough to treat 140,000 patients. For that, they deserve praise. And had they made that announcement at the same time that they applied for orphan drug status, the public reaction may have been quite different. This whole episode highlights something which I often talk about. We need to simplify laws, not make them more complex. See, I often hear people say that they want the government to control things. They say there should be a law against that. The government must do something. I don't think it's a good idea to put too many decisions in the hands of the government or in the hands of individual bureaucrats, because this is the sort of thing that can happen. You, as the citizen, end up footing the bill. Once it's done, it can be really difficult to undo. Just look at the US healthcare system. Which brings me to my final point. And this example shows how important it is that we pay attention and speak up when something is wrong. Because sometimes businesses just need a nudge in the right direction. And I'm sure there are going to be more examples in the months to come. If you found this interesting, please like, share, and subscribe. See you next time.